Have you ever had a question about your job or your career, but you didn't ask HR because you weren't sure if it was actually safe to ask? Today, we're going behind the curtain. Hey, IOers, I'm so glad you're joining me because today we're talking about a word that has become popular in the business world lately: fractional. Fractional HR, fractional CFO, fractional IT, fractional CMO, fractional COO. And that's a lot of alphabet soup. And at this point, you may be wondering why everyone is obsessed with third grade math now. Like, are you one half of an HR leader? Three-fourths of a marketing executive? 75% of a COO? But seriously, fractional is one of those business words that people are using but not really explaining clearly. So today I'm taking you behind the HR curtain. I want to break down what it means, why has it become so common, and how it differs from traditional employment. So let's jump right on in. What does fractional mean? When someone uses the word fractional in their title, it usually means they provide a portion of their time, expertise, and leadership capacity to an organization rather than working there full time. For example, a fractional HR leader may support a company 1 or 2 days per week. A fractional CFO may work with a business a few hours each month. A fractional IT leader may come in to help with cybersecurity, systems, automation, technology strategy, or a major implementation. They're not usually working 40 hours per week for that company. They may also support several clients at once. So, a fractional professional is essentially saying, I have expertise your company needs, but you may not need all of me full time. That can be a very smart business decision. A growing company may need HR strategy, but not a full time CHRO. A business may need financial leadership, but not have enough work for a full time CFO. A company may need technology guidance, but not someone sitting in meetings all day asking everyone to restart their computer. Fractional work gives organizations access to expertise without immediately creating a full time position. One thing to note: fractional does not mean less experienced. In many cases, fractional professionals are highly experienced leaders who have intentionally chosen to work with multiple organizations instead of one traditional employer. They usually have spent years in executive roles in HR leadership, finance, operations, marketing, or technology. They've already handled the high level operational work. They've managed the teams, built the systems, coached leaders, solved the problems, survived reorganizations, and probably sat through more meetings that could have been an email than they care to remember. Now they want more flexibility, more autonomy, more control over how they use their expertise. So, fractional is not a step down. It's simply a different work model that people are going after now. Let's talk about how fractional is different from traditional employment. A traditional full time employee is generally hired by one organization. Their schedule, workload, priorities, meetings, and responsibilities are built around that one company. They usually receive a salary with benefits, paid time off, equipment, training, and internal career opportunities. They're part of the culture. They know the people. They know who replies all. They know who schedules a quick chat that somehow becomes a 90-minute meeting. A fractional professional is structured differently. They are often an independent contractor, a consultant, or a business owner. They may work with multiple companies. They may have a set number of hours per month. They may have a defined scope of work. They may advise leaders, build systems, train managers, solve problems, and help businesses create strategy. But they are not usually embedded in the organization the same way a full time employee is. The simplest way to explain this is a traditional employee is hired to be part of the company. A fractional professional is hired to bring expertise into the company. Both are very valuable. They just serve different purposes. So you may be asking, is fractional the same as part time? Not exactly. A part time employee usually works fewer hours for one employer. They're still part of that company's staffing structure. A fractional professional may also work part time hours, but they're often more independent. They support multiple companies. They work under contracts and manage their own schedule, invoicing, business operations, and client relationships. So, yes, there can be overlap, but fractional is usually more than simply working fewer hours. It's a different business relationship. Well, why is fractional work so common now? Fractional work is not completely new. Companies have always used consultants, contractors, advisors, and outsourced support. What has changed is that organizations are now using this model in more senior roles. So instead of hiring a full time CFO, they may hire a fractional CFO. Instead of hiring a full time chief marketing officer, they may bring in someone to build the strategy, establish the systems, and then guide the team until the business is ready for a permanent hire. There are a few reasons for that. Businesses are being more careful about headcount and spending. They want access to experienced talent without immediately committing to a full executive salary, benefits package, and long term employment costs. At the same time, experienced professionals are rethinking traditional work. Some want more flexibility, want to diversify their income, want to work across multiple industries. Some are just tired of giving one company all of their time, energy, and emotional bandwidth. Let's use HR as an example. A company may have 75 or 100 employees. They may not need or be able to afford a full time HR director yet, but they still have real HR needs. Managers may need coaching, policies may need updating, employees still need support, processes could be very inconsistent, turnover may be increasing. Well, a fractional HR leader can help build structure before the business becomes a mess held together by spreadsheets, good intentions, and one overworked office manager. They can help with the onboarding, manager development, employee relations, policies, recruiting strategy, and leadership guidance. And that is not just paperwork, that is strategic HR work. But fractional HR only works when leadership is actually ready to use the expertise. No HR professional, fractional, full time, magical, or otherwise, can fix a company that refuses to hold people accountable or make necessary decisions. Okay, I won't go on a soapbox right now. We'll just move on. So, when does fractional make sense? Fractional support can make sense when a company needs that immediate expertise but does not need a full time role yet. It can be useful during growth, during transitions, leadership gaps, major projects, or periods where a company needs structure very quickly. But fractional work is not automatically easier than traditional employment because fractional is not just doing the actual work. They are also managing clients, contracts, invoicing, marketing, boundaries, and business operations. So before anyone decides, I'm going to quit my job and become fractional, please have a plan. Know what you offer, know who you serve, know how much capacity you have. Make sure you have the level of expertise required. And remember, I can help with anything is not a business model. That is how you end up overworked, underpaid, and answering client emails at 11:30 p.m. When does fractional not make sense? Sometimes a company really does need a full-time person. If the workload is consistently high or employees need daily support, managers need constant coaching, or the role requires someone deeply embedded in the culture and operations every day, then a fractional setup is probably not going to be enough. Trying to force a full time workload into a part time arrangement creates frustration. The company expects more access than they're willing to pay for. The professional gets stretched way too thin, and important work gets delayed, while everyone is confused about who owns what. So the question should not be, how can we get someone cheaper? The question for fractional work should be, what level of expertise do we need? How much capacity do we need? And what structure will actually set this person up for success? That is the better business question. So, the bottom line here is fractional is not just another corporate buzzword, it's a work model. It gives companies access to expertise without immediately hiring someone full time. And it gives professionals another way to build a career outside of the traditional one company model. But whether you're hiring fractionally or working fractionally, clarity matters. Fractional workers need to be clear about their availability and commit accordingly. They also need to be very clear on the scope of work agreed upon. Companies need to be honest about whether they need a fraction of someone's time or a full time professional, because hoping a fractional arrangement will solve a full time problem is not a smart business decision. That's just wishful budgeting. Okay, IOers, thank you for listening to this Behind the HR Curtain episode from the Industrially Organized podcast. And remember, the best workforce decisions are not based on trendy titles or short term budgets. They are based on clear needs, realistic capacity, and the right structure to support the work. Please don't forget to subscribe and follow for more insightful little nuggets. I'll see you next time.